Oh, good lord. I'm sure y'all just heard that truck going by. All right. Okay, running a little behind. Technical difficulties. Live is hard mode, but here we are, guys. Let's do a show. It's Hump Day, and we haven't traditionally done a Hump Day show, but I figure, in honor of America getting humped, let's go ahead and broach this one. So here we go. Good morning. Okay, so, good news or bad news? I mean, where do we want to start? We'll start with the bad news. Well, it's good news. Well, maybe it's bad news. Well, it's hard to say. Oh, proof of life. Turns out Joe Biden is still alive. Now, okay, so what we're really talking about this morning is the bizarre and, let's face it, somewhat meteoric rise of Kamala Harris, who is just trash. I mean, from the Willie Brown scandal to the way she handled being the California top cop to her slavery scandal. Because, let's make no mistake, a lot of people on the right are saying that the best attack plan on Kamala is to remind all the voters that she's a cop. I think the best attack plan is to remind them all that she's a slave trader. And I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. But so there were some rumors bumping about the last couple days. Let's talk about Joe a little bit. Joe Biden has stepped back. He's not going to run for president. And this is also another good attack line for Kamala. He's stepping back because he's not competent. He's not confident that he will remain competent to fill the office. And, keep in mind, when Donald Trump wins in November, at the end of what will be his second term, beginning in February of next year, at the end of this term, he will not be as old as Joe Biden is today, or he'll be right at it. Whereas Biden, if he were to win in November, which again is not an option anymore, he's no longer in the race. But if Biden were to win in November, at the end of his second term, he would be 85 or 86, right? The man is spent, and nobody is denying that anymore. Not even Joe and Hunter and Jill. Danny points out it's still a very fluid situation. It is, but we'll get into that a little more in just a second. Real quick, I want to touch back. Yesterday we covered, just because it was breaking news yesterday. So yesterday morning we covered director Kimberly Cheadle and her just stonewall, just pure unabashed stonewalling. Um, and nothing very surprising there. Oh, I can't comment on an ongoing investigation. I can't comment on personnel matters. I can't. Then why are you here? Well, do you have a copy of the timeline of events? I didn't bring that with me. Do you have the? I didn't bring that with. Why are you here? Okay. Well, she resigned, and I'm of two minds on this. I'm glad she resigned. I'm glad she's out of the spot because clearly she didn't need to be there. I would have preferred that she be fired because now what we've got is it's okay to just give up and walk away. Which, hey, if you can't do it, and we're talking about people's lives on the line, I want you to give up and walk away. But I want you to do that before the president gets shot in the head. That said, if you have failed in a no-fail mission and got a president shot in the head, resignation is not sufficient. I'm not calling for her head. I'm not demanding she be hanged or something like that. Stryker says she's an accessory to negligent homicide. I would want to see the court case prosecute that, but more importantly, I would have liked to have seen her fired. And this has very little to do with her, or even to do with the fact that there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. But just like A.G. Garland, the wingman AG, what the hell was his name? Was it Holtz? And any number of these Democrat sycophant dedicants and allies, there are no consequences. There are no consequences for actively breaking the law. Joe Biden is about to leave the White House. I mean, he's done. Joe Biden is out of the White House as of February of next year at the absolute latest. Right? And that absolute latest, I'll get there in a minute. Stryker says, give it time. The fire chief's family will not forget. And I hope they don't. I hope there are gonna be some interesting developments there because that family has been given millions of dollars. I mean, shit, Tom McDonald, the rapper, and his production team, the Hangover Gang, sent over $500,000 to him. That family has raised several $1 million, and that will make for a hell of a legal fund. And I hope they go after the whole federal apparatus and sue everybody they can, up to and including naming each of the individual agents personally. That's good stuff. Yeah, Joe signed. Yeah, okay. So anyway, she's out. Now let's get back to Hump Day. It's Hump Day. It's Wednesday. And Kamala. Okay, we just got the news a couple days ago that Joe Biden will not seek re-election. There have been some conspiracies surrounding that because we did not see an immediate response from Joe after the assassination attempt on Trump, and obviously that was bad for optics. So the puppet masters at the White House, they did what they could to rush out a response late Saturday evening, and it was very tepid. First they rushed out a letter, and you just about pay off your mortgage betting that letter was written by somebody other than Biden. And then you got that tepid little video response that was, I mean, it was weak and sad, and it didn't convince anybody of anything. And then we didn't hear anything from Joey for a hot damn minute. Montel called. He's wondering if Kamala can return his wristwatch. See, I was laughing so hard, Sean. I hit the wrong button. I meant to give you technical difficulties, but son of a bitch. This one. Yes. Oh, Malodes says that I can buy cheap viewers on Cutley. That's what the banhammer is for. Okay, so Kamala, Hump the Nation. Let's talk about the Democrats, because Kamala is now apparently the heir apparent. It turns out that in just the last, within the first 24 hours since Joe stepped down and Kamala stepped up, Harris secures delegates needed to become Democratic nominee for president. Really? Wow. Technically, Joe cannot assign his delegates to Kamala. And just for clarification, and just like Donald Trump was not actually the Republican nominee until the convention last week, Joe Biden was not actually the Democrat nominee and would not have been until their convention in a couple weeks. There was even some scandal and some speculation surrounding his absence from the ballots in several states. I think Oklahoma is the one that I heard the most about, but he wasn't on the ballot yet, and the convention, which would be the point at which he actually becomes the full-on nominee. Normally, you would put the nominee on the ballot after the convention. And there's a lot of speculation now as to why they hadn't gotten Joe on the ballot, or why the convention was running so late by comparison. Guys, this convention is later than it normally is. Stryker says Bernie should relaunch his campaign. Yeah, did you read the description that I put up? Let me, So, yeah, that's right. The DNC has screwed all of its voters again. And I want you guys to stay with me on this. The DNC, the Democrats, didn't screw us. They didn't screw people who were going to vote Republican yet, this time. What they did do, and they do often, and their voters need to be reminded of this, especially as these Democrats continue to scream threat to democracy, Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Yeah, let's not forget that time that Bernie was leading the race and the DNC hot swapped him with the Clinton rag, right? They put that Hillary bitch in there, and they launched all these extra attacks and threw Bernie out. They hot swapped Bernie's ass out. Or that time Bernie was doing pretty good, and the DNC hot swapped him for Biden. Right? And then let's not forget that Kamala, who is now the presumptive, and that was where I was going with the conventions thing. They were the presumptive nominee. Somehow Kamala has got all the delegates, all the Democrat selection delegates, basically wrapped up. Now, they haven't actually cast their votes. That doesn't actually happen until the convention, but they have committed. The individual delegates have said, I promise I will be selecting Kamala Harris at the convention. So they just stepped in. So, giving Bernie, hanging chads, because, back with the whole hanging chads thing, they didn't audit Florida. They picked 4 Democrat strongholds in Florida, and they didn't audit them. They recounted them. They recounted them over and over and over again until the Supreme Court said, stop, just fucking stop. And the whole thing with the alternate slate of electors that tried to happen in 2020, that did happen in Hawaii in the 60s. It was not unprecedented. It did occur, and that's how shit. That's how that president was. Shit, I forget whose campaign it was now. Anyway, but and let's not forget the other fact that every Republican president in the last 60 or 70 years has had articles of impeachment drawn up against them once they were elected. Every Democrat who has run unsuccessfully for president has, exactly like Donald Trump did, filed a lawsuit challenging the outcome of the election. Not every Republican has done that, but every single Democrat in your living memory, if you're alive to watch this show today, has filed multiple lawsuits if they ran for president and lost. It's almost like, apart from the super secure 2020 election that was totally perfect and fair and totally secure and had zero fraud, because of course there could be an election that had zero fraud when there are zero elections that ever have no fraud. Apart from that one, it's almost like stealing elections is just what they fucking do. And I find it bizarre that they're so deeply interested, so committed to getting Kamala Harris in office. It's weird because nobody likes Kamala. The Democrats don't like Kamala. So why are they so desperately dedicated to cramming Kamala into the White House? Why were they so dedicated to making her a VP? Why were they so dedicated to running Joe? They were dedicated enough to running Joe, but Joe Biden, this was his third run for office. Stryker says Kamala is controllable. No, that's not it. That's not it. That's a fact, and that's part of the equation, but that's not the big trick. Okay? So Joe Biden has failed his run for presidency more than once. He's had to, in the 80s, the first time he ran, he had to drop out because he got caught committing plagiarism and there's the famous speech about being the first one in his family to go to college and his dad working in a coal mine and all this stuff. And it was just, he just copied a speech from some European politician, just straight stole it. But Biden has proved more than once previously that he could not win that office. He proved it again in 2020 when he ran for it, and the amount of fraud that occurred was so painfully obvious that even a fair plurality of his own voters believed that the election was stolen. Right? Keep that in mind. As a Trump supporting Republican, if you are, it's not just people who think like you that think that 2020 was crooked and stolen. In fact, it's Time magazine that gave us the whole article about the shadow campaign, right? It's milquetoast fence sitters like Tim Pool. In fact, the only people that appear to think that the election wasn't stolen are freaking little hat shills like Ben Shapiro. And don't get it. And of course, the Democrats who did steal the election. The people who actually stole the election, they're totally convinced it was free and fair. Because take for example, what's her name with the Gap, the corn striper, Stacey Abrams. She still maintains that her election was stolen from her. But take a look at Stacey's record. She has been the some sort of leadership position, CEO or chair or whatever, for several different quote unquote voters' rights organizations, all of which have come under scrutiny and some sort of law enforcement action because they've been engaged in voter fraud. Like, it's literally it's the business that she's in, right? Go look her up on Wikipedia. It'll say she's a politician, but that's kind of like saying McDonald's sells cheeseburgers. McDonald's is not in the cheeseburger business. They're in the real estate business. Just like Stacey Abrams is not in the politics business. She's in the vote stealing business. She's not in the business of running for office. She's in the business of fortifying elections. Papa Polak says, break out the jaundice. We in a banana republic. That's a fair comment. And a solid observation. And well punned, my man. Unverified Bear says he was born a banana. My man. You know, I say my man, my brother, Bear, I'm just assuming your gender. I'm pretty solid though. You're based on your commentary. Oh no, he was a yellow baby with orange hair. Like a reverse fire elemental. Okay, y'all broke me. You lost me. I lost my spot. Just a second. Okay. Stryker still hates the sun. Okay, guys, y'all pulled me entirely off of my train of thought. I don't even know what I was talking about anymore. So Kamala is essentially stealing the race. Okay. Stacey Abrams is in the business of stealing elections. It's what they do. That's right. It's what they do. Guys like Tim Pool will tell you that the election was stolen in 2020, but you have to understand the way they did it. And he's kind of right. He's missing another piece of it, but he's kind of right. In 2020, tell you what happened. The Dominion machines were super suspicious. And it was totally reasonable for everybody to be super suspicious of the Dominion machines. And that is not where it happened. They were meant to look suspicious. They were meant to hold your attention. But where it happened was physical ballot box stuffing. The 2,000 mules, ballot harvesting. In many cases, what they did was what an honest and reasonable person would think of as stealing, like the ballot harvesting, technically not illegal, right? That's technically not a crime that was committed. But there were several other cases where ballot harvesting and dead voters led to 105, 110% turnout. So you had more people vote than were registered in a community. Then you had the phenomenon of things like phantom water mains bursting in Fulton County. Okay, and so for anybody, anytime you ever hear anybody say that they don't believe that the 2020 election was stolen, remind them they didn't just stop counting early, which has never happened before, and make us wait a week before they figured out who had won, which has never happened before. But in Fulton County alone, where, let's remember, Biden only won by about 10,000 votes. And even those 10,000, you talk about suspicious, we've got more than 30,000 unaccounted for ballots that were destroyed there. So in Fulton County, they told us that the water main broke in the facility where they were counting the ballots. And for that reason, on an emergency basis, they had to stop counting and come back after that was fixed. We found out the very next day, after they had shut down the building, sent the poll watchers home, removed all of the transparency mechanisms and law enforcement apparatus, and then magically the next day came back and found just enough votes to swing it to Biden. After all that happened, we found out, oh, there was no water main burst. It was actually a toilet that overflowed. And then we found out, oh no, that wasn't even true. There was actually no plumbing event that occurred which could have been mistaken by a reasonable person, or even a generally unreasonable person, for something like a water main breaking. There was no plumbing event at all. There was a lie to commit fraud. In every other election, and I don't, listen to what I'm saying, every other election, not every other presidential election, not every other general election, not every other federal level election, every other election, there is so much fraud that because the courts cannot handle all of it, they choose to pursue none of it. That's from David Schaefer and several judges that I've spoken with. There is so much fraud in any given election that because the courts cannot handle all of it, they choose to pursue none of it. And in part, that's because their dockets are already quite full with other stuff that they shouldn't be wasting their time on. Like nonviolent drug charges, for example. Stryker says Shasta County booted Dominion, no more issues. I'm telling you, I'm not saying Dominion's the good guy or they deserve your defense or anything like that. What I'm telling you is they're not where the real problem happened. Because all of the stuff that I just described, and then after that, here's what happened. There were counties that were obviously stolen. Hundreds of them. There were lawsuits filed all over the country. And you keep hearing this line from these Democrats. Donald Trump was lying about the election being stolen. No. Even if you operate under the assumption, hell, you could show me concrete evidence that the election was the most secure that ever occurred. But the statement Donald Trump was lying in 2020 when he said that the election was stolen is a false claim of fact. No intelligent, reasonable person can believe that statement because the statement presupposes that Donald Trump did not hold the true belief that the election was stolen. For the statement he lied about it being stolen to be a true statement, it has to be the case that he knew or at least held the true belief that he legitimately lost the election. So that's the end of Fani Willis's cases right there, obviously. But then you go back and the other thing that they keep saying is he lost every single court case. He lost every single lawsuit that was filed. That's false. That is a false statement. The majority of them were dismissed without being tried. You want to talk about a miscarriage of justice? A lot of those cases, what happened is the judge looked at the evidence and said, okay, cool. So you've proved that in this tiny little county, the election was stolen. That these votes, that there was fraud here, enough to flip this county. But this tiny little fly shit on the map county is not enough to have changed the outcome of the national election. And so you don't have standing, or we're going to hit you with latches, or whatever other way they throw them out. They dismiss the case because even though the evidence seems to show that the fraud occurred in this one instance in this county, and to a substantial degree in this one county, it's not enough to affect the national case, not enough to affect the national election. Except that it happened in hundreds of counties. So, of course, altogether, those counties make up the difference. Taken together, those counties change the outcome. But individually, they don't. And so individually, they were dismissed. This is how money launderers operate. Think about who we're talking about. We're talking about the DNC, the Democrat National Party. What are the Democrats famously entangled in right now? And have been for decades? Money laundering. Whether it's no bid contracts, whether it's Ukraine aid or other various foreign aid for favors, whether it's lobbyists buying expensive dinners and lavish vacations, or just, all contributions that go into Planned Parenthood and directly to the Democrat National Party. The stock and trade, what the Democrat Party is, they're not a political party, right? Just like I said a minute ago about Stacey Abrams, she's not in the business of winning elections. She's in the business of stealing them. Just like I said a minute ago about McDonald's, right? McDonald's is not in the cheeseburger business. They're in the real estate business, right? The Democrat National Party is not in the politics business. They're in the money laundering business. Their interest in American politics, the Democrat Party, the exclusive interest of the Democrat Party in national politics in the United States of America is access to the printing press. U.S. Federal Reserve is the monopoly counterfeiter for the United States currency. The Democrat Party is the semi-monopolist semi-monopolist laundering organization for world crime. That's why we as Americans are sending our taxpayer dollars to London. Right? We talk about the nightmare sociopathy that is the Ukraine funding scandal, or sending pallets of cash to Al Qaeda and ISIS under Obama, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we're sending foreign aid to every country on the planet. It's money laundering. As long as there's a Democrat in any office anywhere, the United States is the central bank of crime. It's that simple. If you vote for a Democrat at any level, in any capacity, you are voting to fund crime. Period. That's why Planned Parenthood is so successful. Right? I mean, how else are you, to what other kind of people are you going to sell the expensive process of murdering your children for profit? That's what you're looking at. It's one great big money laundering operation. So why were they so interested in getting Kamala in office? Because look at the facts. You cannot look at the facts that put Joe Biden in the White House and believe that the objective was to put Joe Biden in the White House. Key bono. They wanted Kamala there. Joe Biden was an easy way to slip Kamala in without her getting voted for. Everybody hates Kamala. So why would the Democrat money laundering operation want Kamala in the White House? Because everybody hates her. She serves two very powerful purposes for the Democrat. And when I say the Democrat machine now, you need to read this as we're getting into globalism and all that stuff. Go ahead and strap your tinfoil hats on, right? The global money laundering operation is being run by Chinese interests as well as other communist interests, right? The objective there is to eliminate money, currency, from the lower classes, from the slave classes, right? So at the tippy top, they don't spend money. Billionaires don't spend money. They trade favors, they trade, they trade on access, they trade on all that, access, favors, stocks, shares, stakeholder positions, etc. They don't give a shit about money. They have money and they don't use it. Not in the way that you understand, not in the way that the average citizen understands the use of money. Instead, it's all about trading access, influence, etc., etc. Joe Biden obviously came with an expiration date. We have been speculating since the election was stolen that Biden was clearly and obviously not going to win a second term. If in the unlikely event that he survived to even run for one. Right? So Hamlin's razor, we've talked about this with Obamacare and a thousand other things. When the Hamlin's razor says you cannot attribute or you should not attribute to malice that which can be explained by incompetence. But when the incompetence, when the bad outcome is so clearly and obviously predictable that many people come to the same conclusion, right? Every talking head, every pundit, every shithead in his shed in his yard like me that made that same prediction, right? We all said Joe's not going to make it to the election. I mean, he's not going to win. And that's only in the very generous, assumptive, unlikely circumstance that he gets there. Obviously, the predictable outcome was the intended one. They wanted Kamala to be president. They wanted Joe to expire because they couldn't con you into voting for Kamala. The only way they could install her was to backdoor her through expiring Joe. My mother said he was past his expiration date way before 2020. They just refused to do the smell test. The problem with the smell test at Biden, Ma, is if you get close enough to sniff him, he'll sniff you right back. So, Kamala is, like I said, everybody hates her. She's a dog king. Danny turned me on to this idea. I had the idea before, but I didn't know the term dog king until then. And there you are. Pit Danny got the term in there. I wasn't familiar with it as a term. I had thought about it, and then Pit Danny taught me the phrase dog king. So a dog king is, back in the day, a marauding horde might overtake your country, your community, whatever, and topple your leadership, topple your government, topple your king, and then install one of their own. But they wouldn't bring in like a strong man. They wouldn't bring in a great king that was going to lead your nation to, okay, hey, you're one of us now. You've been brought into the tribe. You're going to be, we're going to take care of you now. We're going to make you part of our nation, and you're going to be a colony of our nation, And under this man's leadership, you will grow and prosper and you will be free and happy. No. No, they would install somebody from locally that everybody hated. And it was to break them. It was to make them hurt, to make them suffer. The Dog King was there to insult them and demean them and abuse them. So what possible interest? Danny says they actually had a dog in charge in Thailand in the 20s. That's hilarious. Okay, dog in the Thai dog 20s. That just gave me a great idea. Thank you, Pitt. So Kamala is a dog king. This bitch is a dog king. She's there to humiliate us in front of the world, demoralize the entire population. But there's another thing that needs to be considered. We looked at the hearing of Director Cheadle yesterday. One of the things we pointed out, and this is important to remember, and this is a globalist agenda item. This is something that the Chinese interest is very interested in. In fact, as soon as the show's over today, you should all go spend $1,000 on ammunition. Every Democrat that questioned Cheadle yesterday turned their interrogation into a monologue on gun control, on gun culture, and they tried to get her to say that the president and no politician can be safe until we take away all the guns. They tried really, really hard. Dog King. Jesus, guys. Y'all are doing it to me today. I'm gonna run out of sticky notes. Because I'm gonna go look that up. King. Thanks, Stryker. But the other thing to keep in mind as they're coming for our guns and oh please, let me see a blue helmet walking down the street by my house. It's like somebody breaks into my house, like, oh, shit, you caught me. Yeah, it did. Okay, I guess you're going to call the cops now. Why would I do that? Nobody knows you're here. Nobody knows you're here. Unverified says, how about a tenner and some spoons? Stryker says, Sports Warehouse has sales going online right now. Okay, check that out. Michael Yon, war correspondent, he wrote about it. Okay, Michael Yon. Thanks, guys. But so here's the other thing I wanna hit you with and then move on. The Dog King, Kamala Harris, she's there to demoralize you, but also when the tail wags the dog, many of us will want to cut off our own head. We'll want to get rid of the president, whose fault it appears to be when it goes down. Kamala is a disposable dog king. While she is a dog king, and she is there to demoralize and cause us consternation and embarrass us in front of the world stage, to weaken the country, she's going to get in there and she's going to do more DEI shit. She's gonna keep driving down recruiting numbers by making the military lamer and gayer. She's going to do that to hurt everybody. Because their objective is to destroy the United States, to destroy the US currency, to eliminate the US petrodollar, which that deal's already crashed. But when they come for your guns, it's always because they're getting ready to do something that'll make you want to shoot them. When they try to take your guns away, it's because they're going to do something that will make you want to shoot them. When they try to take your guns away, they're getting ready to do a collective farm, a concentration camp, a set of killing fields, a Holocaust, a Holodomor. When they come for your guns, it's because they're going to do something that makes you want to shoot them. Kamala is a disposable politician. They're not worried about her falling off the bench. They're not worried about when they have to throw Kamala under the bus, losing a useful politician. They know damn well Kamala, in the unlikely event that she wins a legitimate election in November, Kamala will not. I give you a 100% guarantee. This is a 100% guarantee that in November, Kamala Harris will not win a legitimate American election for the President of the United States. Guaranteed 100%. Kamala Harris cannot win a legitimate federal election in November. But if she happens to be installed, it will be because the objective is to install a disposable politician that the Democrats don't mind losing. Because when the thing that happens. Okay, enough being coy. It's World War III. When they get their World War III, and it's the president's fault, because it obviously will be painted as the president's fault. That's how you wag the dog. You have to have somebody to hang that shit on. They get to throw her away and bring in a replacement. And whoever replaces Kamala after her impeachment for the gross failure that created and got us entangled in World War III, whoever replaces her will then be in a very strong position to win 2 terms, and you get a 10-year Democrat. So, yeah, Bear says they don't want to win, they want to bring it down. So, this is gonna. I'm gonna finish on this, and this is a lecture topic that I'm developing, and this will end up having to be its own show. But I'll give you a summary in a couple of, in as brief as I can manage. And I know I'm a talker, but so here's what happened. We were warned about the military-industrial complex. It got away from us. The Democrats have always been the war party. Generally what happens is Democrats get us into a war and a Republican gets us out of it. That they have done a very good job on branding and messaging to kind of create the idea in the heads of the people that the Republican Party is the party of war. But I tell you what, go to a college lecture on political science, try poli-sci 101, and those professors they're all Democrats. They're all super pro-choice, hoorah, go Biden Democrats. But they love to start a class with this joke in poli-sci 101. Does anybody know which party is the war party and which party is the peace party? And everybody raises their hand and says, oh, it's the Republicans are the party of war. And they think that because the Democrats have been very good on messaging, and because, well, let's face it, soldiers and veterans tend to be very conservative. And veterans, in particular, veterans and especially combat veterans, tend to be even more conservative than soldiers do. I've got a lot of buddies who are veterans that were active duty at the same time as I was, but they would tell me then, and they tell me now that back then they thought I was just crazy, just over the top crazy, with some of my conservatism and as far as I'm willing to take it on policy positions. And now that they're out and have been through, because remember, you're talking about soldiers that were on active duty serving in Afghanistan and Iraq while Barack Obama was the president. They have become much, much more conservative since they got out because they've seen the world. It's like Thomas Sowell was a socialist until he worked for the federal government and said, no. Right? Even having, he became the Black Milton Friedman. And Sowell was a Marine. And another great example is somebody who got more and more conservative after having served and had experience with the government. Which, by the way, tells you that if you're dealing with somebody who continues to work for the government and hasn't been totally disillusioned by the insufficiency and the iniquity and the danger and threat of communism, then you're dealing with an idiot or a crook. Probably a little bit of both. And yeah. Bear, I'm gonna steal that the 100-year coup. I may call the episode that. But anyway, so the Democrats got real wrapped up in making money off the whole forever war thing. A lot of people think that what's really going on in Ukraine and Russia and in the Middle East right now, what they think is really going on is Donald Trump kind of cured a lot of the forever war stuff that was going on, right? I mean, with the Abraham Accords, we nearly had peace in the Middle East. He walked across and shook hands with Kim Jong-un and nearly managed to broker reunification in Korea. It's Donald Trump almost achieved almost achieved world peace. As soon as they managed to cheat him out of the office, they had to get started on spinning up new forever war. Because forever war is the profit mechanism. But here's the other piece of the problem. They figured it out about 20 years ago. Right smack in the middle of the Afghan war, of Afghanistan. They started to figure it out. Oh shit. This thing has an expiration date. There actually is a point at which there's no more war to be fought and there's no more profit margin to be made there. And we have built the American economy around sustaining the profit sink and embezzling off of the forever war machine. And so all the Democrats had to switch their tactic because they're about to run out of free money. And so the new play is we need to set this bitch on fire so that everybody runs away screaming and we can put the silverware in our pockets before we jump in the life rafts. Right in the middle of the Afghanistan conflict, the Democrats decided we can't keep going this direction. It's time to scuttle the ship and steal what we can and get off the boat before it goes down. They are destroying the country on purpose in order to distract you from the fucking looting operation that they're conducting. You can see it happening more and more and more. The rats leaving the sinking ship. Look at the cities. Look at the love trucks. Look at the Summer of Love, the BLM riots. They're just breaking into stores and looting and pillaging. This is all by design. It is what the Democrat does. So, like I was saying, that is a longer, that is going to be a longer lecture that we're going to have to, that I'm developing, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that one. So, thanks for watching this morning, guys. That's your hump day. Hump day. Rock and roll. Tomorrow is Thursday. I will see you then. And I've got something special coming up. we learned something important from the Trump assassination and how they were able to identify the shooter so fast. We learned that the ATF is in direct contravention of the law, actually keeping a firearms registry, which they used to identify the shooter that took a shot at Donald Trump. So this Firearms Friday, we're going to be revisiting all the reasons to abolish the ATF. So make sure you don't miss that one. And hey, guys, do us a favor. I had, I'll pull it up and drop it here. I forgot to put the link in the description today. And my dad got on to me yesterday. I almost said he was yelling at me. But Dad got on to me yesterday. He told me I need to mention this more often than I do. If y'all could go and buy us a coffee, greatly appreciate it. That's how we fund the show, developments in the show, expanding the equipment. And right now, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Right now, what I'm going to be doing with the buy me a coffee money, I don't have anybody on the schedule yet. I'm talking to several different people and trying to start doing some on-site interviews. I'm gonna be going and talking to interesting and influential people where I can, and some of that. No, I don't want to give that away yet. But basically, buy me a coffee and help me fund doing some road trips with some cameras and going and talking to some people, and getting some interviews on the channel. Hopefully we can get another one like the Jack Barsky interview. That one was a lot of fun. Or, going to meet Herschel Walker was a lot of fun. Stuff like that. So thanks, guys. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.